What's up, everybody? Hello and welcome to episode number 115 of The VK Bros. With The VK Bros, Jason and Alex Von Cannell on a sunny, beautiful Saturday morning and get prepared for what possibly might be the greatest show we've ever done, or it could be my worst show I've ever done, as I've been awake since 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, what time is it now? It's 9:30.
It is 9:30, so I've got a large black coffee, I've got a can of cola here ready to go, so plenty of sugar too.
Plenty of stimulants. Some uppers. Lots of uppers there.
Lots of uppers. I need them.
Yeah. Life's a downer.
Well, yeah. My son's a downer.
Yeah.
So Jakey boy has got like 5 teeth coming through all at the same time at the moment, which is ridiculous because for a start he's 7 months, and I'm pretty sure Nate didn't start getting teeth at all till like 10 months. Mm-hmm. And secondly, you're not supposed to get that many at the same time. They're supposed to be like drip feeding them through. But yeah, like 5 teeth, 4 across the top and 1 down the bottom. And he's just not having it at the moment. And the worst thing is too, is that normally he, like to relax him, you give him his dummy. But his mouth's so sore now. Yesterday, for like the first time ever, he spit in the dummy. So like, couldn't go to, like cheat code, no longer works.
Wow.
Yeah, so I might fall asleep during this. I hope you guys don't.
Well,
Alex will just keep carrying the flag.
My night was slightly disjointed because I had a nap in the yesterday afternoon. So and then a pizza, and then
falling asleep already.
And then I stayed up till like 10 o'clock. I usually go to bed at 9, and had a completely uninterrupted sleep till I woke up about 5:30. So
yeah, man.
You know, we're all feeling it.
Yeah,
we all
we're all
feel
going
it.
through it. Well, I'm sure that one day when we're still doing this pod, when we're like 70 or 80 years old, and you know you're in a home because there's no one to look after you, and
Robots.
And my kids will actually, yeah, you better afford robots.
The robots, yeah. Now I feel a bit like Frank Costanza this morning.
Oh yeah.
There's things I want to say. First of all,
is this going to be the airing of grievances?
This is the airing of grievances, not my grievances.
Early Festivus. Societies. Here we go. Let's go.
So yesterday, Tash and I went out for lunch, and you have said before that service has been lacking.
Yeah.
Well, I had a double banger yesterday.
Right.
So first of all, after lunch, and it was nothing special, just Sushi Train, right? Went to Sushi Train, so I don't expect excellent service. But I did expect more than when my credit card went through, she got the receipt and yawned in my face.
Because they got your money. Service ends as soon as they've got your money.
Okay, so that was not... And no thank you after that, just a literal yawn in my face. No apology for yawning.
It's
just a yawn. Right in my face.
It's so funny because, like, in the last 2 years, everyone's literally been wearing masks to, like, stop breathing on each other.
Yeah.
So a yawn's, like, one of the most offensive things you can do to someone at the moment. Open up your mouth as wide as it will go and breathe all that hot air on people.
So then after that, I want to get myself a little snacky snack. And there's this fancy French patisserie that sells overpriced pastries.
Nice.
So I picked out 2 overpriced jam donuts. No, jam donut, Nutella donut. They were super ordinary too. I would not bother. I can't even remember what the thing's called, but... And it was like $10 for 2. It's like $5 each.
Wow.
And they're dressed to the nines. Beautiful shop, beautiful produce. Like, it looks beautiful. When my credit card payment went through then, I wrote this down, she replied with, "That's all good." I just spent $10 on donuts. And she said, "That's all good." I know it's all good. That's why I'm here. What you're supposed to do is thank me for my custom.
Yeah.
This is wild how bad people, like how few fucks are given to customer service.
Well, like, I can't remember if I spoke to you about this on the pod before, but it seems like there's some sort of fast food word track guide that they give to the staff in the drive-through, where when they hand you your food, they go, "There's that one for you." Like, they're supposed to run you through what the order is so you can confirm that they put the right food in there. But literally, it doesn't matter which KFC, Macca's, Hungry Jack's, doesn't matter. every single one of them goes, "There's that one for you."
Yeah, do you know why they do that though? It's so
It
they
could-
can't
they
get
could-
cornered, because if it's got the wrong thing in
That's
it,
right.
then they'll have to address it. But they don't want to address it
It's not
because
because
no one
you
addressed
ordered.
it.
It's that one.
Yeah, it's that one.
It's that one that they gave you.
Yeah.
So they're correct.
But shout out to Arrivederci. Arrivederci pizza in Milton.
Mm-hmm.
Great pizza. Even better service. And I actually spoke to the owner about this yesterday because he put a spray up about QR codes, which we had spoken about.
Yep.
And we had a bad QR code experience during the week too when I took the Auto Bros for lunch. And we had to order on the QR code.
Still.
Where? It's all staying at the golf course at the I can't even Victoria Park. And they
Douchebags.
they bring the food out. I'm like, oh, we're still waiting on the drinks. And I said to the lady, I said, look, traditionally the drinks come first. And she goes, okay. And then I had to ask again to get the drinks. And the other bad thing is everyone gets orders at different times. Yeah, it's just anyway. So I had to spray to him, and he's like totally agreed because his mum went out. His mum's 75 years old, pays cash for everything, couldn't order. They said, no, we don't. You have to do it through the app. She goes, I've got a flip phone. Like, this is not going to do it. They walked out. Wow. So anyway, shout out to him. You can walk in that place. You're greeted at the door. It's hello, welcome. It's it's like dine in or take away.
Yeah.
You walk past, like they've got like an open kitchen
Yep.
where the chefs are there. The chefs will say hi to you as
Yeah.
you walk through. Really, really nice. The manager there, Jin, she knows like me by name, so
Yep.
she'll say, "Oh, hello, Alex."
No one finds that surprising.
It's so good, and it's just
I wonder if that's a pizza thing, because we've got a pizza joint on our street called Do One Pizza. Same story. Great bloke.
Right.
Treats you like gold when you walk through there. Nothing's too difficult. I can't even think of like specific examples off the top of my head, but it's been things like I ordered pizza there once, and I went to sit in my car and I said, "Oh, can you just maybe give me a wave when the order's ready, because I've got my kid in the car." And he goes, no, like, I'll bring it out to you, and like just makes you feel like nothing is like you actually felt like a real customer.
Yeah.
Like they want your business. They actually want you to come back because you've enjoyed the experience and the food. Mum and Dad went to Stanthorpe on the weekend. If you want good service, apparently go to Stanthorpe. They had 2 different experiences at different wineries. Don't know which wineries they were. Like 2 wine tasting things back to back. Now they thought one thing was funny. One of them was paid for. The other one was free. The free one, the wines were way better than the paid for one.
interesting.
Which makes you wonder if the free one knows the wine is good, so people will buy wine when they finish.
I would say it's more
Whereas the
subjective
paid one
to
knows
taste.
the wine is shit, and therefore they need to get the money up front because no one's buying from the gift shop on the way out.
Maybe.
I don't know, but they were saying that one of the restaurants that they went to it was all teenagers, every single one of them. And, we know what like teenage service is like, especially on the Goldie.
Not their fault. It's the manager's fault, not telling them. But yeah, anyway, carry on.
Yeah, but they're usually doing these ones where like they're literally serving you with their mobile phone in their hand in front of their face, like between you and their face while they're serving you. That's what Goldie teen service is like. But no, apparently every one of these teenagers, like the local school or something's got apparently a really good hospitality program.
Wow, okay, cool.
And these kids on fire, like great service, polite, did everything for them. They said it was fantastic. It's one of the best service experiences they've had in a long time.
That's good. Okay, so there is some contrast, but I would shout out to anyone that is in the service industry, and I consider myself in the service industry, and it doesn't take much to like stand above the rest.
It's serious. Like, I was literally having that conversation with my parents about that. All you literally have to do to look like you're above average is just do what your business says it will do. Whatever the service is you're supposed to provide, if you can provide that service, you're actually standing above the pack.
Yeah.
Like, it's mental.
Now,
Absolutely mental.
that's the easy stuff. Now I want to talk about something which I think has the potential for some concern.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I wouldn't consider myself a big conspiracy guy.
Mm-hmm.
I do enjoy them, so maybe I am.
YouTube considers you a conspiracy theorist.
Yeah, true. But I just have noticed some signals locally, nationally, that got me hypersensitive to it.
Your radar was starting.
My radar was pinging. I reached out to our chat group early on in the week.
Yep.
And then in subsequent days, it got more confirmed.
You were seeing more breadcrumbs
to lead to it.
throughout the week, yeah.
And what
This
that,
is really interesting.
And what that is, and I have written some notes here, and I did some dumb, so I might be out of. I did some dumb like copy, cut and pasting, and I think I stuffed it up. But anyway, airport security.
Yeah.
To me, this week in particular has been a hot button topic.
Mm-hmm.
So we had on the 11th.
So what's today? Today's the 15th.
We had on the 11th a Melbourne. So they basically kicked everyone out of the Melbourne terminal
Yeah.
because someone had got through to the terminal without going through security.
Yeah.
Kicked everyone out, re-secured them, and it was on the news for hours that morning. Hours.
Now, I didn't see any of it. Did they explain either what the person was doing or how they got
I'll come to that later.
caught? Okay.
I'll come to it later.
Right.
It was hours, and they just talked to outraged people the whole time.
Yeah, okay.
How long have you been here for? I've been 6 hours already, I'm still here, rah, rah, rah. And they just, and they'll hammer
So they were outraged because the terminal's closed, not because someone got through security.
No, but it kept on being tied to the fact that someone got through security.
Right, okay. Yeah.
Then the day after, there was 2 days after, the day after, Qantas industrial action by their ground staff.
Yep.
They want better working conditions, better money. Day after that, there was fisticuffs on a Jetstar aeroplane where they needed to go back and get these guys kicked off.
Yep.
A month prior to this, I know I'm going all over the shop, but a month prior, the same security, a similar security breach happened at Adelaide Airport.
Right.
Literally exactly 30 days prior.
Okay.
11th to the 11th.
Right.
A month prior to that was when, a month and a bit prior to that, or exactly a month prior to that was when in Melbourne Airport, a guy walked in and shot a gun at the glass.
That's right. Yep. I remember that one.
Okay? Mm-hmm. So that to me got my juices flowing, right? Because I'm like, why such a focus around airports?
Yeah.
Now, the closure on all these things, all those events, as blown up as they were actually very minor.
Yeah.
The guy in Melbourne, this most recent one, he was taking a connecting flight, went to the baggage area thinking he needed to get his bags, then realised, no, my bags automatically get put onto the next flight, so just walk back in.
Yeah.
That was what it was all over.
Right. Okay.
But you had to listen really close to have that loop close.
Yeah.
Now that was
The feeling that was put
sentiment.
out there. The sentiment was Melbourne Airport shut down due to security breach. Everyone angry and upset
correct.
because of the security breach.
Correct.
Yeah.
How can we do this?
How scary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then what scared me even more, and you know me, I don't like I'm an optimist, but this is what got me even more. Tuesday, I think it was, is the 20th anniversary of the Bali bombing, and Albanese was at a memorial at Coogee Beach. Now, I want to say this. I've actually been happy with everything that he's done so far.
Not everything, but most things.
Most things. I think he's handled things quite well. I think this stuff about the budget that's coming out. I've actually been very content with.
He did try to sign us on to the World Health Organization.
Don't like that. Yeah.
But I agree with you.
But he said
the
something.
majority of things so far I've been impressed with.
So he did the rounds in the news, and he said something that really alarmed me. So 20 years since the Bali bombing, 88 Australians died in the Bali bombing.
Yeah.
Okay? He said, and I quote, because I lost the quote, then I found it's on YouTube. You can go and find this on YouTube. We need to recommit and fight against terrorism wherever we find it. What?
Right, yeah.
When was the last terrorist attack that we had?
I don't know. In Australia, I don't know.
maybe Linseed, would that be the last one?
Yeah, I guess so. Which that was what 8 or 9 years ago.
So we are now rehashing.
Yeah, now we have to recommit to the world. To
Why do we have to
terrorism?
recommit to it? Oh, did we not do any counter-terrorism before?
Yeah, yeah.
How I read it was, we're going to go through this again. 20-year cycle. We never learnt from the last one. We're going to go in it again. That's what I see. So I'm very sensitive to what happens going forward, because there was also some stuff like that got slid through by Peter Dutton when the Libs were in charge. There's a lot of domestic terrorism stuff being spoken about. A lot of digital stuff that's come in. And I would have thought
additional surveillance stuff.
Yeah, I would have thought when Albo comes in, he's going to undo a lot of that stuff. But that made me think, oh no, there's something else. Like there's something else coming.
Yeah.
And the fact that it was always domestic terminal issues, it's Australian stuff. It wasn't international like it was last time around. Makes me think that you're going to try and get us to focus on things that are happening domestically. And I think a domestic terrorism play is coming.
It's the same play as what America's pulled over the last 2 years. They did the same thing. It's like, remember all the news stories out of America about, like, the FBI being called because of parents showing up at school board meetings concerned about, like, some of the books that were in, like, the kids' libraries. Like, they were reading these books that have, like, these are young children with these books that they're reading, which has got, like, graphic sexual details in it, pictures, descriptions, and they're like feeding this stuff to kids, and there was parents that were showing up at school board meetings upset about it, and they were literally being looked at like domestic terrorists. There was this big, I can't remember the full story. I mean, anyone who goes looking for it will be able to find it, but there was this memorandum that got sent out from Merrick Garland, the like head of the, I think, can't remember if he's FBI or CIA. I think he must be FBI. Which was literally talking about people being on notice and people getting flagged on watch lists for showing up at these parents and teacher meetings and voicing their concerns. And and the concern about all this terrorism stuff, and this is where anyone needs to educate themselves on it, if you get deemed as a terrorist or a terrorist threat, the laws are completely different. You got no rights. Yeah. You got no rights. You can get locked up on no charges indefinitely. Yeah. And the concern for me, listening to you starting to detail the stuff, is a few things. Number one, there's obviously a lot of civil unrest towards government decision-making in the last couple of years.
For sure.
Not only our country, all over the world, right? Now, as more things start to come out about the facts around the COVID stuff, which I'm sure we'll get into today as well, there's going to be more unrest that comes out of that. Because naturally, you've already got the crew of red pillars that have already been saying the same stuff for the last 12 months. Now you're getting more people starting to come across because they're starting to see the data actually, like, it's now getting beyond reproach.
Yeah.
So is the government just planting the seeds now on domestic terrorism because anyone who's seen as an instigator or as a, someone who is spreading malinformation, as we confirmed last week, anyone who's spreading that, do you get put on a terrorist watch list and next thing you know you get locked up so you stop causing trouble for the government?
I mean, I don't want to tie those things together. Because I think they would have done that already when they had the powers to do so. So I would have thought, especially in Victoria, that girl that got arrested in her house in her pajamas, right? And that's all been that's been kicked out of court, and so I don't think it's that. I think it's a new thing. Yeah, it's a new reprisal of an old tactic. Yeah, which is okay. How do we slide some more
security measures
in? And let's be real, domestic flight is far easier than commercial flights.
Yeah.
Okay, so what do they want next?
Well, that was my first thought when because you originally flagged with me the airport terminal story, the first one, the person getting through without going through security, because that flagged with you straight away. And my first thought was, facial recognition technology.
Yeah.
This will become justification for facial recognition. And again, they'll sell it as convenience. Oh, you don't even need to check in now. You just walk through and it scans your face and it'll save you time and it'll be safer and blah, blah, blah. And because you guys probably remember all the recent hoopla about private companies doing facial recognition stuff.
That's
like
what my
Bunnings.
barber said. I got my hair cut and we're talking about it and he goes, oh, well, Bunnings used it. So why wouldn't an airport? You know?
And it even makes you wonder if it's like, you know, obviously the government didn't come out and go, Bunnings, you shouldn't have done that, bad boy Bunnings. Government didn't say shit. They're quite happy for as much surveillance as they can possibly get, right?
Yeah.
And like you're saying, like it's the same play time and time again. You create a problem, which then creates a justification for whatever play they want to make next. And, you know, we saw that with COVID. We're seeing it with sending money to Ukraine. Like they create the conditions which make the majority of the public, which in a democracy is all that matters.
Yeah.
All you need to do is fool the majority. That then gives them justifications to do whatever it is that they want to do.
Yeah, so keep an eye on that space there. Just be like there's a couple flags that we want to put in. Like we've predicted here. We think that climate alarmism is going to be the big one. You know, I still think we'll see climate lockdowns. I still think
agreed.
that could happen.
Well, I posted something about that during the week with Melbourne being one of the first, has joined 6 other cities around the world in hiring chief heat officers.
It's funny because I was having a conversation about climate with a young'un, 21-year-old.
Yep. What colour was their hair?
No, it was the natural colour. But obviously they voted Greens and for all the reasons why they thought was really right. And he had said, I'm like, oh, do you think the world's getting hotter? And he goes, oh, I just remember this day. It was really, really hot. I'm like, how long ago was that? And he's like, 10 years ago. I'm like, also, it's been cooler since. And I know that, don't rip my head off. It was a joke. I made a joke to the guy, but there is a bit of that, like.
But if you actually go and look at the data, the global warming trend continued until like the early 2000s, and then I think it was, I don't know, 02, 03 or something like that. It hasn't gotten any warmer since then. It stopped. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, like, because when we grew up in the 90s, it was global warming.
Yeah.
That was the buzzword, global warming. The globe is getting hotter. And notice how, even though they've traded out the terminology from global warming to climate change, because again, they've realised that if the climate stopped getting hotter, you can't keep calling it global warming. Yeah. So you change the number.
Yeah.
But they still don't change the fear metric.
Yeah, just like war on terror.
That's right.
It's a war on a word.
Yeah, that's right.
Climate change. We need to fight against the changing of climate.
That's right. And all of these...
Which way? Well, I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
And isn't it funny that the people that want you to fight it are the ones, like, the worst polluters? The ones that want you to fight it are flying in Learjets to all the rich places in the world to talk about it.
Here's a fun fact for you. The American military creates more carbon emissions than Denmark, the country.
Yeah, man.
They're exempt from the climate calculations. So, we're sort of moving around a fair bit here, but like on the climate change front a little bit. Queensland government, all I get on the VK Bros Facebook page, because I don't follow anyone with that page, is Queensland Labor government politicians talking about all the renewable energy shit that we're buying and putting into Queensland.
Yeah, but I know what that's about. I think I know what that's about now.
It's just more profiteering.
No, because an article came out this week about their overspending. They went $2 billion over budget. And I reckon they said, we know this report's about to come out. We need to light up our feed. We need to make the noise about all this green stuff. And because everyone associates the green shift with the cost increase, we know that we've got to pay for it. Mm-hmm. So I think it was a way to get rid of...
Look, you're probably right when it comes to the timing of...
Yeah.
Because there was another article I saw, which has again just leaked out, where the Queensland government has been caught out only releasing the quarterly health data at specific times. And there's been, did you see this? There was I think I took a screenshot of it. So there's text messages where basically whoever is the person who's put together the data is texting. Oh no, I don't have it. They're texting, going, "Hey, can we drop this data now?" and they're getting replies back, and I don't know if it's from Yvette Darth herself or other people in her office, but they're like, oh, yeah, no, look, we're just waiting on this thing and that thing and blah, blah. And anyway, turns out it looks like they only wanted to drop this data 15 minutes before the last sitting day where people...
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So picking and choosing when they actually launch data
Yeah.
to suit themselves politically.
Yeah.
And like literally sat on this health data for over a week. It could have been released to the public, should have been released to the public, deliberately sat on it, and then got the shits because it was supposed to be released like 15 minutes before the 10 o'clock sitting session. And because the staff actually wanted to do a good job, they had it all the ducks lined up in a row, and it got released at 7:45 a.m. And then the government got the shits over it, and people got like dressing downs because
Right.
they released the health data too early.
Yeah.
But what I find interesting about all the renewable energy push, I think to a degree you are right. It's because they've spent over budget and they're trying to get a bit of good press, like, oh, you know, we're only over budget because of renewable energies that we're supporting, because we're good people and blah, blah, blah.
Because that was the number one, like $500 million of the $2 billion was for some green.
Yeah, they're doing like
Blah,
wind
blah,
farm,
blah.
solar, blah, blah.
Yeah, to move our 2% of the 2%
Yeah, but
to 3% of 2%.
But it is just, it's the same play again. You're using climate change as the buzzword to get people emotionally charged up and out about the fear that we're doing irreparable damage to the climate. So we need to throw all of our taxpayer money, hundreds of millions of dollars, at these renewable energy sources. Even though just last week there was the Energy Council where a major energy provider's come out going, the energy price is going to be up 35% next year.
Yeah.
Right? This renewable stuff ain't solving that problem right now. But we're throwing all this money at it, and Queensland's giving themselves big ups, going like, look at what we're doing. We're doing all these great things. But they don't deliver on any of this stuff. So when you go back to just at the beginning of the pandemic, all they spoke about was millions and millions and millions of dollars getting funneled towards health. Guess what? The health system's not fixed. The health system is still in trouble.
We did commit $80 million to put tents out the front of hospitals?
Yeah. Right? So now they're like, they're talking about all this other money that they're going to do to build hospitals now. And it's like, it's the same play over and over again. You take the buzz term of the day, you use that buzz term as the justification to commit all these hundreds of millions of dollars worth of taxpayer money, and then those projects either, they do maybe get done, maybe not, maybe it's too late, maybe it's after the thing you actually need it, i.e. the Wellcam facility, where that was built after it had any use, so it was just a cost hole to the taxpayer. And I can't help but see this renewables push as the same thing. But it is just an easy way to get people G'd up to agree to hand over all this money.
It's funny talking about.
And who's attached to the Labor government? Unions. So who do you think's getting all of this money to build all this infrastructure? The unions. And then what happens? Well, you can only work on those jobs if you're a member of the union. So you got to join the union. And guess what happens with your union fees? A percentage of union fees gets sent back to the Labor government for campaigning purposes. It's a racket.
There's some real mismanagement in here too, because when you pump money into a industry, you're ripe for being taken advantage of.
Yes.
And I just watched a video during the week. There was an American company that got $25 million worth of government funding to create some new battery tech. Mm-hmm. And they created this beautiful like catalyst chemical that is way better than lithium batteries. Lasts for 30 years instead of 10.
Yep.
And is cheaper to make, and just through mismanagement and bureaucracy, the red tape, they couldn't license it. So now China has it.
Yeah.
So China invested. So China could move. China's now got all the tech. The manufacturers moved to China, and now they sell it to America.
But by mismanagement, you mean people couldn't make enough money out of it, so they deliberately mismanaged it to push other technologies that they were already invested in.
No. I don't want to say that. I don't think that's what it is. I think it's genuinely like, hey, we want to create this technology. We want Americans to do it. You know. And then, but they're not capable of harnessing their own knowledge. The Chinese are. The Chinese they get it.
You are too optimistic. But like we're the opposites, because you want to believe the right things. I believe that this is just like the hydrogen debate we had the other day. the powerful people who make all the money put the handbrakes in place so these things don't happen, so they can continue to profit out of whatever it is they're currently working on.
But the outcome's still the same though. The tech still comes out, but it comes from China.
Yeah, maybe they get their ducks in a row and invest in it in China. Maybe they sell the technology to China. Who fucking knows?
You can't sell anything to China.
Why not?
Because they just take it. Because they don't have intellectual property laws.
Okay.
So that's where your argument falls apart.
Well, it doesn't, because you still have to wait for China to produce it.
It's done. So this is where your argument does make sense. If it's about profiteering, nobody profits from it except the Chinese, right?
But also,
the opportunity was lost. The opportunity was lost
Yeah.
through mismanagement in America. America, if they had just signed the line, got the license done,
Yeah.
the Americans could be producing. The Americans could be making money out of that same thing. But what happened was, because they delayed it, no one was willing to put any money in it. Some Chinese investor goes, "Yeah, I will." Comes here, done, and then they've already
And
started.
why was no one willing to put money into it?
Because there's no license. You can't invest in it with there's no license.
Because
So it's
they're already
purely red
making money
tape.
out of something else. And you didn't want all the money they've already invested in
Yeah,
these
but
other technologies then goes to waste if you then launch this brand new product.
That's assuming that the technology never comes out. But you know it's going to come out because it's a good product.
No, but it just delays it.
But it didn't delay it. It only delayed it for America, and China picked it up and has already produced it. So there was no delay.
Here's one of the examples I can give you about where I think that we deliberately make the wrong decisions for profiteering, and that is this renewable energy stuff. One of the biggest money makers that the Queensland government has is coal exports. So we want to talk about how we're all green energy friendly and we're the best people about climate change, but we're still selling all of our coal overseas. So we're happy to sell it to someone else for them to burn it. We're all one planet, we're one world, right? But we want our people to pay for all this renewable shit. When it's like the coal's still getting burned. So it's the same argument as...
What I agree with what you had just said.
Yeah.
But that's got nothing to do with what this case
But it
was.
does, because it is an example of when you've got a technology here that we could already use, but it's the best way to profit out of it is to sell that overseas, and then the best way to profit from your people is you justify the taxpayer expenditure into the renewables that you already invested in.
No, but that's not what happened here. It was not sold. It was literally like dustballed.
Yeah, but do you not think that maybe some powerful people who already invested in the opposing technologies didn't want it to happen?
No, that only worked. No, because that play is, I'll buy it and shelve it. That's what all companies have done. They'll buy that technology and shelve it so that technology doesn't come out.
Okay.
You don't mismanage it to let China do it. The product still came out. It just came out from the wrong people.
So how does China get a hold of it?
We can get there'll be a company sitting there going, man, we're wanting to make this thing, but I can't get through the red tape.
Yeah.
A Chinese investor goes, bring it over here and I'll get it done tomorrow. Boom, done.
Yeah. So someone still had to sell it to China.
No, it's not sold. It's not sold.
So, but how do they get the technology? If China wouldn't pick up the phone and go, "Hey, bring it over here and we'll get it done tomorrow." If you're not making money out of it.
Yeah, now
someone had to do a deal.
They're making money out of it now. Like
but the person who created the technology has to make money out of it.
Yeah, but they were going to make money. But they're going to make money either way. But they do it in America, do it in China, they're going to make money. So it was purely a case of whether you're going to do it in America, where everyone thinks that it's going to be done and wants it to be done and invest in America, or the opportunist China, and that's why it doesn't fit with your example. I agree with the things that you had said about there are people that are trying to stifle stuff from happening. This wasn't stifling because it still came out.
Okay. So what technology was this again?
It's a battery. It's a battery that stores the same amount of energy as what lithium does.
Can you remember what the compound is?
No, it's a proprietary compound. The only problem with it is
it mRNA?
No, it's sulfuric.
Right.
It's acidic. So the only threat is that, like, as it degrades, but it degrades over 30 years. Once it degrades, and you have like a leak, you've got like an acidic leak. That's really the only downside to it. But the benefit of it is that it's so much more. You get so much more lifespan out of it. So therefore, like, the recycling is not as much of an issue. Are you searching for it?
Yeah. I'm just having a look.
I'll see if I'm
trying to find something.
It was really interesting tech because I think we need to get better. Lithium's not the answer, and it doesn't have like rare earth minerals in it. It's got like really abundant guff in it.
Oh well, then of course the West isn't going to support it, because in support of climate change, we want to double the amount of dirt we dig out of the earth, which is what we spoke about a couple of weeks ago.
I think it's mismanagement. I think it's mismanagement more than it is. I think the thing you're saying happens.
The government seems to mismanage a lot, and that's where.
Yeah, but that's my point. My point is like, we also need to be aware that if we're going to be doing these big projects, that there is going to be exploitation. There's going to be a lot of little companies that start up.
Sodium glass electrodes?
Yeah, I think it was a sodium-based one. SGE. Yeah, I think that's the one.
Yeah, okay. Anyway, I'm not going to...
American tech startup.
Yeah.
Government funded, so much like... So it falls more in line with the government paying for the mRNA technology.
From overseas.
And then the independent companies getting to make all the money out of it, and the taxpayer not getting anything out of it.
Yeah, so...
Kind of closer to that.
Yeah, you socialise the cost and privatise the profits.
Yeah.
And it also falls into line with...
Well, in this case, you've communised the profits.
Socialism, communism, I think. But that's like what happened with the vaccines in Australia. Like, we had a vaccine, Nikolai Petrovsky from South Australia created a vaccine. It's still sitting on the TGA's desk.
Yeah.
So instead of us buying the homegrown one, because, hey, it's really hard to embezzle money when all the tax records stay in the same country, we had to
Monash University had... was it Monash? Monash Uni had AstraZeneca. That was there.
No, it's Oxford AstraZeneca.
What was the
Monash was the one that tried one, and then they pulled it early because everyone was getting the false positives for HIV.
Yeah.
So
they probably rather that now compared to what the
potentially, but that's the thing.
So a stat that I'd heard during the week, and I guess we're moving there. So the big news. We should start with the big news. The big news is that...
We should start with the big news 36 minutes in.
The big news is that a Pfizer spokesperson grilled by the European Union effectively admitted that... Well, you explain it, because I actually see it differently to the way the world is saying it. So you tell the story.
So the European Union had a committee meeting where they invited the heads of the vaccine companies to come and answer questions. And the clip that's gone viral this week is a Dutch parliamentarian asked the question. Now, sorry, I should take a step back. Albert Bourla, who's the CEO of Pfizer, didn't show up. So funnily enough, he's been all over the world, all over TV, appearing everywhere the last 2 years in a row when it comes to selling his jabs. But then when they actually want to ask real questions, didn't show up. Sent Jane Smith, if that is her real name, to answer questions on his behalf. And the clip that went viral, it actually cuts out. There was a lot more that happened in that committee meeting that isn't included in this clip. For example, a lot of the parliamentarians going, where the fuck is Albert Bourla?
Right.
Like, they were very upset, right?
Yeah, okay.
Because, and even one of the, I don't know who it was, but a lady was literally saying, we need to have a vote of no confidence in this committee, because if we can't even get them to show up to answer questions, what is the point?
Yeah, how disrespectful of the company, like, to not even show up at the European Union's... Yeah.
So the clip that went viral was the Dutch gentleman asked them the question, was the mRNA, the Pfizer-BioNTech mRNA vaccine tested on its effects on transmission before the product was brought to market? And her response was, no. We had to move at the speed of science.
Yeah.
And so it was...
But you missed the line that I picked up.
Whether it was tested on immunisation.
Yeah.
So she... We'll post... I think I posted the clip on the Instagram page during the week as well. She uses different terminology in her response, which I kind of half thought might have been a flub, might have been deliberate.
I think it's deliberate.
Yeah, just to not use the same... Because it's like admitting to it without admitting to it, because you flubbed a different word in there.
Well, I think it's a twofold thing. It's either that, or she's speaking the absolute truth.
Yeah, they didn't test it for immunisation.
Which is why they stopped calling it get immunised, and they said go get a jab.
Yeah.
So they knew it.
And
that product is what was sold to us. What she described is what was sold to us.
But I still...
In the end.
In the
In
end,
the end, yeah.
But if you go back to the phase 3 trials, the phase 3 trial result said, headline, 95% efficacy at preventing symptomatic SARS-CoV-2 infection. That was the headline that was first sold to us. But then...
That wasn't phase 3. I thought
that was the phase 3
I
trial.
thought it was the 2, because I thought the 3
No.
was hospitalizations and death.
No. Phase 3 trial. That came out, that is like the 20th of December 2020 or something like that. Or maybe 8th of December 2020, because I've read it that many times. The phase 3 trial results said they had 95% efficacy at preventing symptomatic SARS-CoV-2 infection. That was the headline statement on it. So all of this bullshit that you've heard in the meantime about, oh, they never said it would stop you from getting it. Yeah, they did. And that's why I posted up during the week as well. Fortunately, the Australian government still got all of their advertising materials on the health.gov website.
Yeah.
So I posted all of those posters from the Spread Freedom campaign, which came out in late 2021.
Yeah.
Spread freedom. What's the implication of that? It was get vaccinated, spread freedom.
Yeah.
So the implication behind that advertising campaign was if you got vaccinated, you're spreading freedom instead of COVID.
Yeah.
That was the implication. So, yeah, obviously the internet's gone a bit mental over this week. Now, there was one part of the clip too, which I think people took out of context, where she goes on to say, because everything was moving so quickly, we had to do everything at risk. Now, the internet's gone, oh, it's at our risk. That's not really what she meant. What she meant was, the risk was Pfizer funded these trials and stuff themselves and paid for all the development up front. They spent like $2 billion.
Yeah.
So at risk was, we're risking the finances because we don't know whether this thing's actually going to get to market or not. And they tried to play it off like they're trying to do the right thing for humanity.
Yeah.
You guys did all right out of it. You know, it wasn't just for humanity.
Yeah.
But that's the part that the internet's got wrong. Is they're like, oh, at risk. You're not supposed to do science at the speed of science at risk. And it's like, no, the at risk was the financial risk.
Well, I know, I kind of feel like the reason why some of the internet has taken it that way is because of another study that came out, I think it was out of Thailand, that talked about there was a number that said for the amount of hospitalizations and death the jab protected from, added between 4 and 19 severe adverse reactions.
Yeah.
So maybe the time, like people have been triggered by that and
But
heard
look,
her say that.
it's-
I agree with you.
yeah.
In that context, it sounds like at a financial risk.
It's all starting to come out. I mean, like we spoke about last week, the Surgeon General of Florida coming out and changing the guidance. So now you can still go and get jabbed if you want to, but they do not recommend any mRNA vaccination for any male under the age of 40 and any child, male or female, under the age of 17.
So I like the guidance, but I don't like where they got it from, because I did some more research on that study. It was a pretty loose study.
Everything's a loose fucking study, mate.
Yeah.
The new bivalent vaccine studied on 8 mouses. That's pretty loose,
That's
bruh.
more loose than this, because at least this is 11 people.
11 people? They could have done it on one person, and that's better than 8 mice.
And the authors they don't know who the authors of the paper are.
Who cares? Does it matter? Does it really matter? Like, how many...
No, but
how many
does if you
COVID-related studies
I get
have
it,
come
but
out?
if you want to be held into a high regard, do it in a high regard.
Hey, I don't think science wants to be held in a high regard anymore.
Well,
Science just wants to go back to the back rooms where everything just got decided back in the good old days, and none of us knew about it.
Well, that little what's that little internet blog?
The British Medical Journal.
Yeah, British Medical Journal.
Yeah.
Any John Campbell followers will understand that reference.
Yeah, well, and it's interesting too when now that you brought that up, the BMJ have been one of the ones that has been actually pushing back against the fact-checking stuff. And interestingly enough, British Medical Journal, we've said a few times that England typically seems to be trying to be more sensible in regard. They still went crazy like everyone else did, but they've at least made a few more sensible decisions than some of the other Western nations have. And it's probably not a coincidence that the BMJ is the one who pushed back a lot against Facebook's fact checkers. And they put out all these open letters and stuff about like, what was it was a study to do with ivermectin. And they posted the study, it was peer reviewed and said essentially that ivermectin could have a positive effect on COVID. And then when people shared it on Facebook, first of all, it came with a fact check missing context. And then independent fact checkers have assessed this as false, blah, blah. And then if you actually went and you read through the fact check article, at no point do they specify anything that the article got wrong. They just say it, and that's the headline, and that's what people read and see, and they move on with their day. But not only that, it got worse again because too many people started sharing it. So then Facebook just stopped you from being able to share the article.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they've been pushing back a little bit. And as we mentioned too, I wonder if maybe it's stuff like that, which is the reason why Facebook's starting to become a lot more lenient. Because since our YouTube strike, YouTube's not showing our content to literally anyone.
Yeah.
Instagram's not either. But Facebook, we're getting shown all around the world.
But Instagram is Facebook.
I know, but obviously
Maybe
they've got
it's a
two
different
different
test
teams or
case,
something.
yeah.
Yeah, maybe they're trialing two different things. But some of our reels on Facebook are getting 8,000-9,000 views on Facebook from all over the world. We're getting shared by like 50, 60-year-old mums in Brazil and shit. They could all be bots, but I don't care. Everyone's got bots watching the content, whatever.
Yeah.
Maybe the bots can learn something.
Yeah.
Maybe when Skynet becomes a thing, they'll
They'll start off with a healthy dose of red pill.
Yeah, potentially. But we've sort of gone all over the shop. But yeah, the key point out of all this, and what is interesting, because
There is something I want to add to this. You weren't going to wrap it up.
Well, I was just going to say, has anyone seen anything about this on mainstream media?
Well, yeah, Courier Mail.
Right. Okay.
The Courier Mail had posted something about the. I think I should have screenshot it. But they're talking about it.
Okay, so here we go. Here comes the shit.
It's coming.
Which is why it's so concerning bringing it back to the security thing. We're already trying to shift the focus to a national security domestic terrorism front.
Yeah.
So don't be surprised if certain people who've been speaking against the narrative in the last 2 years start getting painted as domestic terrorists.
This is something
Probably starting with Avi Yamini, because everyone thinks he's Middle Eastern, even though he's Jewish.
So someone showed me a clip of a guy. He's a TikToker. He's a fitness guy. I think he's a fighter. Don't know the guy's name. I've seen him pop up in a couple of things. He's very outspoken, and he was ripping anti-vaxxers to shreds during the. So he's since come out after that article came out and said, "I got it wrong.
Right.
I got it wrong. I shouldn't have said it, and I definitely won't make the same mistake without peeling a couple layers back." And he's been ripped to shreds by red pillars. Now, this is what I want to say.
That's not helpful.
That's not helpful.
What response do you want?
Yeah.
Do you want to welcome people over to your team and actually work together again?
Yeah.
This is not about
Correct.
I get it. Because I had a conversation with someone about this yesterday who was on the blue pill team and has come around. And I said, the last 2 years was rough. It was really rough.
Yeah.
I know there's people who don't talk to me because of me sharing my views over the last 2 years. I understand that.
Yeah.
I knew there was a price to pay to do the right thing.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, those people, if they want to turn around and, go back to normal, be mates again, because that was literally the only thing that we've had differences over, I'm open to it. But we absolutely, it's the dumbest thing in the world, because we know what the game plan is. The game plan is divide and conquer.
Yeah.
Divide and conquer. Tap into the basic human instinct of safety and survival, wanting to be part of the big group. So what do? Create two groups, one smaller than the other one, and they tell the big group to persecute the little group. And the sad thing is, and what you saw in COVID, is you realise how delicate society actually is. Because how many people are walking around who probably don't have an opportunity to exert any form of power on the world, all of a sudden got an opportunity and felt emboldened to do so, and started acting like the biggest fucking pricks on the planet. But guess what? Those people, just pull your head in and come on over. Yeah, let's be nice to each other.
Let's be nice, and let's just say, hey, I have total empathy for where they came from. They were spun a multi-billion-dollar lie.
Absolutely.
and there was almost no outlet besides such a small. Like, think about, talk about the vax rate. If they were to be true, only 4% of Australia's population is unvaccinated, and out of that 4%, how many of them talked about it?
Yeah.
A fraction. Can
I say something controversial?
Yeah.
The only difference between COVID in Australia and the Holocaust was the internet. If you had the internet back in Nazi Germany, possibly wouldn't have happened, because you actually would have had a second point of view, a second perspective. The thing that really pulled people out, because there was some ugly shit that was happening in the last 2 years, because people were getting all of their views from one perspective. At least there was an outlet to have a second one. And I was talking to someone about this
I do not like that.
It's fine, whatever. You can throw it out.
Yeah.
We'll just cut that out and edit. No, it won't.
Yeah.
But I was talking to someone about this during the week too, where I actually wonder if, there's a lot of talk about, some of the real full-on red pillars, especially in America, have talked about how it appears that there is an attack on the nuclear family. The typical old-school family, mum, dad, couple of kids. There's an attack on that family unit. And when you look over the past 20, 30 years, a lot of things have changed to make it easier to not participate in that. Number one, women being able to go to work. Now women have options. So it's easier for a woman to get divorced once she's had children, because she can actually go and get a decent job now and support herself. Then you've got all of the push towards all of the different gender identities and sexual preferences more specifically. So then you're further degrading that typical family unit. And one of the things, I was talking to mum and dad about this yesterday, and I said one of the things that I think I'm really thankful for is that I grew up in a house with mum and dad. They're very different. So one of the things that comes naturally to me is knowing there's two different perspectives on an issue. If you grow up in a household with a single parent, it might be really difficult to see that there are more than one perspective on an issue. Because obviously the things that you take in without it, subconsciously when you're a child, which really create who you are as a person, as an adult, I'd never thought about it before, but I was like, would you become more susceptible to accepting, for example, the mainstream narrative at face value if you grew up in a household with only a single perspective from a single parent? Not saying it, I'm not having a dig at single parents. Yeah. And honestly, some of the single, I don't know how you guys do it. I already complained about having to fucking drive Jake around last night. I still get to take a break. I don't know how single parents do it. I'm not having a dig. You do the absolute best job you possibly can. But it really does make me wonder if maybe there is a more natural inclination towards believing one news source when you grow up and it could be the same if you've got two parents who agree on absolutely everything.
I think it's probably more that. I think it's more of a mindset of, it's probably the difference between if you're a headline person, because it's very easy to be a headline person, and if you're willing to talk about headlines, or if you actually read the article. It's probably it's the opening line of The Big Short. Are you willing to have a look, or are you not? So if you're inquisitive, you're probably going to ask a couple more questions.
And I had the best example of that happen during the week too, from a red pillar. And this is the thing. Red pillars aren't right all the time. Red pillars are headline readers too. Both sides are as bad as each other.
Yeah.
I had a guy send me an article about, what's her name? Can't remember her name. Some chick radio host / footy person. I should know her name, but I don't. Who passed out at work during the week. And sent it to me straight away with the, obviously, thinking straight away, jab-related. Oh, look, she passed out at work, on camera, jab-related. And that was his first response. And I read the article. She's scared of spiders. And they did a stunt where they got spiders out and tried to get a hold of her. And she passed out. And I'm like, dude, you didn't even fucking read the article.
Yeah, can't do that.
And he's like, oh, fuck, my bad. I shouldn't do that. And I said, honestly, the only reason why I read everything, number one, naturally inquisitive. Number two, I don't want to say dumb shit on the podcast. You know what I mean? But we both sides fall into that trap all the time.
But I do want to say to red pillars out there is that we need to embrace these new red pillars with open arms. We need to bring them in the fold, and we need to have empathy for where they've come from. And it's not their fault.
100%.
Bring them in, because that's the only thing that's going to stop us from happening again. It's the only thing that's going to stop us, with this upcoming climate thing, with this potential for domestic terrorism thing. Like, we need to stick together.
We
need
talk
to
about
stick
all the
together.
time, tinderbox events. They do this on purpose. Divide and conquer is the oldest trick in the book.
Yeah.
If we spend all of our time arguing with each other, we're not looking at who's really causing the problems.
Yeah.
And why do you think it is that we had literally 2 straight years where the only problem that existed in the world was COVID? Do you not find it coincidental that just as the narrative was starting to crumble, all of a sudden we got all this other shit?
Yeah.
We got Ukraine, climate change, and now we've got domestic terrorism. 3 massive issues, all just happened to happen in the last 12 months. When for the 2 years prior to that, it was all COVID. It's by design. And again, they create these situations, tinderbox events, 2 different sides, if you pick a side, you're going to be right to a degree.
Yeah.
And you'll argue with each other. And instead of actually opening your eyes and going, all right, what's actually going on? We're too busy bickering. So red pillars, welcome everyone back into the fold.
Yeah.
And when I say welcome everyone into the fold, I don't mean they have to come all over to red pill land. Guess what? You can learn some shit from the blue pillars too. Because not everything's a vaccine-related injury.
Correct.
Sometimes someone might be scared of a fucking spider.
Yeah.
Read the article. But come together, talk to each other as human beings. Again, one of the things I spoke to my parents about yesterday, when I really think back over COVID, I couldn't believe some of the stuff that people would say to people in the street, like yelling at people to put masks on or, everyone trying to police each other. And I was just like, if COVID was not a thing, none of those people who did those things would have said anything. None of them.
Yeah.
But it was fear-related, and then they felt empowered to do so.
Yeah.
So, look, a lot of mistakes were made in the last 2 years. We're all human beings, and like you said, it's not their fault. They had this massive behemoth juggernaut.
Every angle was covered.
Exactly. Attacking them from every angle to make them believe a certain thing. You can't blame a few people for going along with it.
So just be aware of nudge units. Be aware of keep your ear to the ground on narratives. Try to understand the gist of the story that is being propagated.
And it's always
protect yourself.
That nudge stuff is the key point for me too, because what you picked up on this week with that first news story about the airport terminal, that's the nudge.
Yeah.
This is what you guys, if you've never worked in sales, what you might not understand is the question that gets asked at the end of do you want to buy the car or buy this product or whatever it is, they've already planted many different things in your mind on the way to that particular point.
And you won't even ask that question unless you've nudged.
That's right. Unless you know you're going to get the right answer.
Yeah.
We used to even get taught, if you'd go on a test drive, for example, ask people questions that they can only say yes to.
Yeah.
Because if someone says yes, 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 they're far more likely to say yes when you ask them the big question. But if they say no, 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 and then you ask them if they want to buy it, they're more likely to say no. We were taught this stuff to sell a car. Think about what these massive cabals have done in the last couple of years. I think they're just at least as sophisticated as the car sales industry, right?
Yeah.
So keep an eye out for it. Anything that you think seems, just a little bit out of the ordinary.
Peel a couple layers back. Ask 3 more questions.
Read articles. Look at where the article's from or sponsored by. Always look for financial conflicts of interest.
Yeah.
That's one of the
the other
biggest
side.
things that you can look for is financial conflicts of interest. Is this person who's telling me this certain thing benefiting out of me believing them, yes or no? It's one of the best places to start.
Follow the money.
Follow the money. And on that note, thanks for joining us, guys. See you next week.